So if you're in the agency space, maybe you're an agency owner, or in the coaching space, I'd almost bet my house that you have seen a ton of resources, gurus, consultants that proclaim that they can help you get all of the sales you want. And I'm actually not even coming for them because oftentimes they're right? Like I know a lot of these people and they actually do get a lot of the results that they preach. But what you probably haven't seen as much of, because it ain't as sexy, is what is on the other side of the tapestry, right? You got all of these sales and now there's one thing left to do, which is fulfill. And even if you can sell the whole world on whatever it is that you do, if you can't fulfill for them, you have a problem. You got refunds, you sure as hell ain't getting no referrals, but probably most importantly, you don't have a business. You are self-employed. Because when operations ain't operating, ultimately it falls on you to either fill the gap or pay for the person that's filling the gap. Ideally, there ain't no gap to begin with. So to help start closing those gaps, keeping more money in your pocket and let you get back to your life, today we're gonna address the thinking that's required to get you from operational chaos to systematic success. Oh, and by the way, if you're stuck right now between like 20 and 50K a month, this is the video for you. So like I mentioned, operations is not nearly as sexy as sales, right? Because if you go and make another sale, you got another 10, 15, 30 grand in your pocket. And operations is more of like a potential thing is how it's viewed, right? Like, so maybe like I can handle 50 clients, but what does that mean if I don't have the ability to sell 50 clients? So I totally feel that. This video is really for the person that is dialing in their acquisition, right? You got it down pat, but it's starting to turn almost into a bigger headache than it's worth. I know that because I've been there over the last 5 years. I've worked to implement systems to help businesses and agencies grow, both within my own video production agency and later short form content agency. And starting in the beginning of this year, I actually came into a marketing company that was serving around 4 clients with a short form content offer. And through the systems that I've employed, we've been able to 5x the amount of clients served in a matter of a couple of months. I've also worked extensively with some of the biggest and best agencies in the game, particularly in the creative space, and had a ton of opportunity to learn from them, look at what they do, take away some of the things that work, and even iterate on them better. So overall, that experience, I've learned a lot of lessons, and in this video, I hope to impart them to you so that you can not only grow your agency, but do it with less headache and keep your life. So without further ado, let's dive into some of these principles. There are 3 big principles that I like to kind of recenter myself and any collaborators that I'm working with when it comes to system building. Every part of the system that you touch, these 3 principles are going to be a huge factor in how effective the system is. I'm also going to plug one of my favorite resources of all time when it comes to building systems. It's a book called Thinking in Systems by systems analyst and expert Donna Meadows. If you're a systems geek like me, operational nerd, you should definitely check this book out. The first principle is that systems should be developed by the people that actually use them. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in building their systems is that they create a solution for the problems that they have right now, but they don't ever actually collect any feedback from the people that live within the system. It's the same as moving into like a developing community that at the time only needs 2 roads. But then as more people start moving in and traffic starts developing, it becomes apparent that you actually need like 5 roads for traffic to flow smoothly. Imagine if your development company did not listen to y'all. Imagine if they built no more roads. You'd probably up and move. And that's exactly what your team or your clients do when you take the same approach to building your system or not building your systems, right? So the people that live and work in your systems every single day are actually the biggest gold mines that you have as far as what the next steps are in developing the system and how you do that. On that point, principle number 2 is that system development is continuous. Your business is very similar to a garden, right? So your systems are always going to need tending and pruning and nurturing. But if you build in the right way, that doesn't mean that you, the agency owner, the business owner, the coach, need to be the one building those systems out yourself. So don't get afraid. Third principle is that effective systems are exactly what differentiate entrepreneurs from self-employed people. And part of this is because the better systems you have, the higher and higher your vision as a business owner can be. So the decisions that you're making and the thinking that you're doing is on a more macro scale than just the nitty-gritty. So now that we have these principles in our minds, I want to dive into some of the biggest systems pitfalls that I've seen, but I'm not just going to leave you with a problem. You know I got to come with a solution. The first is actually addressing one of our principles, and that is having a lack of feedback into the system. This is one of the easiest pitfalls for you to fall into because once you get the system built out, especially if you're doing it yourself, it's really easy to throw your hands up and think, I'm done. Boy, no, you not. Without the necessary feedback, your systems will become obsolete. This is especially true for my creative agencies. I know you know how fast the market is moving. And as it keeps moving faster, if you don't update your systems, your operations start moving slower. Really easy solution here that you can implement today is just creating an ongoing feedback loop with your team members, right? Have regular check-ins with them and use some tools perhaps that can make getting that feedback really easy for you and for them. You and that, you know what I'm saying. These can be calls, these can be written, these can be voice memos. You have a good deal of flexibility around how you actually conduct these check-ins. The most important thing is number one, that they happen, and number two, that you document the findings so that they can be incorporated into your operations. Now, talking about making things easy, this goes on to the second, which is absent KPIs and metrics. Y'all, this is actually one of the more recent problems that I solved in our short form content offer, because there are a lot of things that caused us headaches, right? Revisions and notes and bottlenecks, time delays, all sorts of things. And we had to realize that one of the things that was making it hard to get to the solution of that was that we weren't looking at data. So we were making all of our decisions based on our feelings. I feel like the editing team can do this faster. I feel like this actually didn't need to be. I feel like, and that is just not gonna help you scale. I know you know the saying, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So the solution to this pitfall is, of course, coming up with these KPIs, these metrics that you can start to measure to give you insights into the lifeblood of your business, what that circulation is like. It's almost like checking your blood pressure. And one of the things that's helpful as you go about this process is thinking through what are the numerical data points that exist that right now just don't live anywhere. Examples of this for a creative agency would be, how often does content get revised? How long does it take for a piece of content to go from being created to being posted or shared with the client? How many hours does it take to plan or strategize for every client? What are some of the most common revision reasons that we get? Once you have all of those answers, you can start to highlight those data points in the way that you build the system. And now every single day, time is on your side, giving you insights into what is working and what is not. One other thing that I'll say here is that it makes it really easy to communicate with your team about performance items. When you establish the KPI and you make it known to the team, you no longer have to come back and forth with the team and say, hey, listen guys, like I feel like we can do this, let's make this happen, whatever. It becomes a very logical conversation. Look, this is where we need to be, this is where we're at. And if you have data that's addressing the reasons why, now you can be proactive as a leader in making sure that those things get taken care of. To that point, number 3 pitfall is going to be that there's no standard reference for your decision making. The thought that drove me to put this down as a point was actually around managing team members, or more specifically, deciding whether or not to let them go. Again, if it's just an emotional decision, it's something that can weigh on you for weeks as you try and gauge whether or not your logic and your emotion are balancing each other out, or if one's overpowering the other. But if you have these KPIs and you already have it in an SOP, in a decision-making guide for yourself and your management team, that these are the performance metrics that we need to hit. Exceptions can be made in these cases perhaps, but if someone is not operating here for this amount of time, we have to let them go. Putting those things in place is going to make your and your management team's lives way easier. But this isn't just about letting people go. This is also about deciding what resources you're going to invest in to develop your team. It's great to know that, hey, if we get this amount of revisions for this reason, we're going to invest in fill in the blank so that we can make sure that that doesn't happen as much. And when you have the data to prove it, now it justifies itself. Last big pitfall here is that a lot of people are reactive versus proactive when it comes to improving and evolving the systems. If you're always playing catch up, that means that you're always just putting out fires instead of preventing them. And it can be way too easy to fall into the day-to-day activities that go on within the system and never take the time to take a step back and look at the system as a whole. So solution for you as the owner, as the leader, as a collaborator when it comes to your operations is just develop a forward-thinking approach, right? Schedule regular audits of your systems so that you can get an idea of what potential issues might arise before they become huge problems. And I will say there's no better feeling than catching something that you know could have grown into the reason that a couple clients left you. Some of the biggest things that you can check in on when it comes to these audits are the things that plagued you in the past, right? What are the things that we've put solutions in place for that we can check on to see if maybe they're in a good place or if they need to be evolved? But I would take it a step further and say anything that you have implemented, whether it was big or small, is something that should be revisited for impact. How much impact is this making in the business? Because if it's making a ton, there might be a couple of items to its left or right that you can create a similar impact just by making some small adjustments. So whether you're a systems geek or you don't touch the stuff, I hope that this has been helpful. Number one, in giving you some tangible items that you can do to start revamping your systems. But number two, in giving you some hope that if you're sitting in a mess right now, now, it does not need to stay that way. I know that operations can be a huge undertaking, and if it's something that you think you could use some help and direction with, I do provide operations consulting specifically for creative agencies. If you're sitting at a bottleneck that's keeping you from collecting cash right now, I'll actually give you access to the systems that we use to fulfill and keep our pipeline at 6 figures a month so that you can instantly access that value that's locked in your pipeline. If that's you, or if it's not you, but you think that there's an opportunity for us to work together, you can go ahead and click the link in my bio and we can schedule some time to chat. I wish you the best in all your operational endeavors, and as always, ravage the game.